Knowing how to create custom validators can take your Angular forms to the next level. In this video, we will see how we can create the two types of validators Angular uses: synchronous validators and asynchronous validators. I created a form that has two controls: username and password. For each control, we will print the status and any error it contains. I've also added a form submission button that will only work when the form is valid, and it will print the form object to the console. As you can see, both of them are already invalid, with a required validator error. If we start typing in each of the fields, you can see that we get no errors, and now the form can be submitted. Now let's say we want to enforce our users to have a strong password. Their password should have at least one special character, one uppercase character, one lowercase character, and one digit. To check it, we will create a custom synchronous validator. We will create a new file called validators, where we will set our application validators. Then we will export a function called passwordStrength that needs to return a validator function. The validator function is just a function that accepts the control, and return an object containing the validation error or null if everything is valid. To check whether the user password is according to our rules, we will create 4 variables: as uppercase, as lowercase, as digit, and as special character, and we will set all of them to false. We will also get the current password submitted by the user. The next thing we will do is test each rule using regex. If all of the test passes and our variables are now set to true, this means that our password is strong enough and we can return null. Otherwise, the password is still weak and we will return validation error object. This object can be pretty much anything, but as a general rule of thumb, just return an object where the key is the error and the value is true. Now we can add this validator in our form, and when we start typing in the password field, you can see that it will be invalid until all the rules are applied. Before we continue to the next validator, don't forget to like and subscribe if you like my content. Okay, let's add our second validator. This validator will check whether a username already exists or not. In a real application, all of the username will be stored on some database. So to check if some user exists or not, we will have to call our backend and wait for the response until we can notify the user whether he can use it or not. For these situations, we need to create asynchronous validators. It's pretty much the same as synchronous validators, except the return value. We will start by exporting a function called doesUsernameExist, and this function will return an asynchronous validator function. The asynchronous validator function should also accept the control, but now it will return either an observable or promise of the object containing the validation error, or null if everything is valid. Because we don't have a backend for this project, we will use RxJS to illustrate a call to the backend. We will check if the username the user entered exists in a predefined array, map the result to the validation error object if it exists or null if it doesn't, and delay the response by 3 seconds. Now let's add the validator to our form. And now when we start typing in the username field, you can see that the field status go immediately to pending. This is because it takes time to get the data from the server. While the control is in the pending state, the user cannot submit the form. After we get the data from the server, the status will be either invalid if the username already exists, or valid if not. So if we enter data to both our fields and both of them are valid, we can now submit the form. That's it for this video. Hopefully you now understand this topic a bit better. If you have any questions, leave it in the comment section down below. I will leave the code for this project in the video description. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video.